بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فلما قضينا عليه الموت ما دلهم على موته إلا دابة الأرض تأكل من سأته فلما خر تبينت الجن أن لو كانوا يعلمون الغيب ما لبثوا في العذاب المهين صدق الله العلي العظيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. If you remember last night, the discussion was under the topic of thankfulness, and as we were trying to discuss it, we ran out of time and we weren't able to conclude. Although tonight's discussion is in regards to the emissaries of Allah, or the messengers of Allah other than the prophets. And there are sets of messengers that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent other than the prophets that we have. Inshallah, at the end, towards the end, we will try and see if we can get to that discussion. But I wanted to close out the discussion on thankfulness, as it's a very important discussion. And we had talked about how, as far as the thankfulness is concerned, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestows us with a blessing, and we make this dua, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something. If He accepts it, we should thank Him, and if He doesn't accept it, still, Imam says we should go ahead and thank Him even more. And the reason was because one, when He accepts it, He obliged to my request. When He denies it, He's doing what He wants to do. So what God's wish is, should be thanked more than what my own wish is. And then the discussion was sort of leaning towards the concept of dua, as to why sometimes the dua is accepted and why sometimes the dua is not accepted. That's another discussion for another day. We will not get into it. In fact, if I remember correctly, last year when I was speaking at this very place, we had a very detailed discussion on the concept and the dua, topic of dua, and I think it still is up on the YouTube if you want to go ahead and check that out. But just very quickly, a lot of time people have raised this question. When we make a dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there could be four possible scenarios for it. One is that Allah accepts it, and so that which we had requested comes true. And that's very good. A lot of time that does happen. Secondly, Allah does not accept it. He denies it. And so that which we had requested is declined, and it never comes true. Thirdly, ulama mention that Allah accepts it, but He gives us something else rather than what we had asked for. So we might have asked for, oh Allah, grant success to my kids. But instead Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives long life to them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives something which is intangible, which you and I are not able to understand right away. But it is there. So He chooses what is better for us, and then He grants it to us. So a lot of time, you make a dua, you might say, well, it did not get accepted. No, it did get accepted. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you something else on behalf of that which you were requesting, which He deemed to be better for you than you yourself would have thought. Fourthly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts the dua, but He does not give us the fruit of it in this life. Instead, He delays it, and then He gives it to us in the hereafter in paradise. And then the riwayat of Ma'soom says that if people only knew what Allah will grant in the paradise, they will say, oh Allah, may none of our du'as are accepted in this world. May You give us all of our compensation in the hereafter, and should not give us anything over here. If only they knew what is waiting for them over there. So this is the scenario. If any time you make a dua and you see that it has not been answered, this is how you look at it. We see that it's a very important phenomena when it comes to the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We recited an ayat just today when we were doing the group recitation of Quran. Surah Al-Imran, verse number 103. It's a very famous verse, but it is used for another reason. It's used for unity. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold on to the rope of Allah and do not disunite. Do not cause discord amongst yourself. وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ. Recall and remember the blessings of Allah onto you. إِذْ كُنْتُمْ عَادًا. When you were enemies of one another. فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا. He united your hearts and thus you became brothers and sisters in faith with the ni'mat and the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the only ayat of Quran in which God mentions the word ni'mat twice. Usually you say, well, you know, the ni'mat of Allah is mentioned here, ni'mat itself is mentioned, sometimes the word ni'mat is mentioned, but in this particular ayat of Surah Al-Imran, verse number 103, twice does Allah mention the word ni'mat. وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ. And then, فَأَلَّفَ قُلُوبَكُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا. Twice the word ni'mat is being mentioned over here. Here the question is that why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, I don't want to use this word, I don't have the better word to use, bragging when it comes to bestowing and giving the blessing. Oh Allah, you have given something to us. Why are you reproaching, na'udhu billah? Why are you mentioning it again? When you and I are told, when we do good to someone, when we give benefit to another individual, what are we supposed to do? Should we supposed to keep on reminding them? How bad is it that you keep on reproaching and reminding the person that you have given something to? It's so bad. It's a bad habit. In fact, what it does, there's a concept of habt and takfir in our, not that takfir. Habt and takfir means kafara. Kafara is the word takfir over here. And habt means the dissolving of all of your actions. When you read that initial verses of Surah Hujurat, that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you know, لَا تُقَدِّمُوا بَيْنَ يَدِهِ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. And then he says, لَا تَرْفَعُوا أَصْوَاتَكُمْ فَوْقَ صَوْتِ النَّبِيِّ أَن تَحْبَطَ آمَالُكُمْ. Do not raise your voices, do not excel or exceed beyond the boundaries God and His Prophet has set for you. Why? أَن تَحْبَطَ آمَالُكُمْ. Your amal will be nullified. Your amal will be cancelled. They will be removed, as if you've never committed those things. Similar is the concept when you do something good, and when you give a favor to someone, and then you reproach, and you mention it, guess what? That action is gone. Imagine I helped someone, I gave him $100 as a help, and then I kept on reminding. That help that I had done, God does not keep it written in your amal. It will no longer be there. Why? He removed it, because of the reproach that you had. As opposed to an action that you did which was incomplete, but due to the kafara that you paid later on, that action becomes complete. So that concept is also there. So you are told from the very beginning not to brag about that which you have done. If you've done good, put it in the vault and throw the keys away. Do not even have to bring it onto your tongue. To the extent that when our Prophet of Islam, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, is the recipient of the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does God do? He does not brag. In fact, He does not even repeat those words ever again in Quran. Why? Lest my Prophet will feel ashamed that I'm reminding of the favors that I have done unto him. What are those verses? When He said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna a'tayna kal-kawthar, فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ إِنَّ شَانِئَكَ هُوَ الْأَبْتَرُ. Indeed, O Prophet, we have given to you Kawthar. Pray and give the sacrifice. Indeed, your enemy is childless. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He gave this favor to our Prophet, not only that He didn't remind him ever again, He never even used the same words again in the holy book of Quran. That is the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here, so we understand the concept that how do we recognize the bounties and the blessings that God has bestowed upon us. A lot of time we are oblivious. We are heedless in regards to some of these favors. Those things which are tangible, those things which are physically available, we realize them. but those spiritual and meaningful favors and immaterial favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are completely in oblivion of those favors. For example, we mentioned it last night, the favor and the blessing of Iman that Allah has given to us. It is God who has endeared this blessing of faith into us. Otherwise, you and I would not even have this faith. Moving forward, so dua is a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our fourth Imam, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salatu wasalam, taught us how to make dua. We don't know how to properly make dua, thus sometimes they are not answered. In fact, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Muttaqeen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam, was once passing by from the streets of Kufa, and he heard a man say the following, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika minal fitna. Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from fitna. Now I understand the word fitna, the way it's used in Urdu, is different than how it's used in Arabic. The word fitna in Arabic means imtihan, trial, tribulation, test. Why? That's the reason Quran says, إِنَّمَا أَوْلَادُكُمْ وَأَمْوَالُكُمْ fitna. Your wealth and your children are what? Are fitna. Not fitna, the Urdu fitna. Rather they are fitna, that means they're matter of trial for you. Allah tests you through your awlad, and Allah tests you through your wealth. So both wealth and awlad are good things. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts them in front of you so that He can test you. So the word fitna is there. Imam says to him, do not make this dua. You don't know what dua you're making. Oh Allah, keep me away from the fitna, from the trial. And obviously, it was in Arab, so he wasn't referring towards the Urdu meaning of fitna. He was referring towards the trials and the tribulations. Imam scolded him and said, you shouldn't be making this dua, that you should not be seeking refuge from the trials. لا يقولن أحدكم اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الفتنة. This is the short saying from Nahj-ul-Balagha, short saying number 93. Go home, take a look at it. It's a lengthy short saying, if it's correct. Go ahead and read it, and you will see that what Imam ﷺ is saying over there. He says, none of you should ever say, Oh Allah, I seek refuge and protection from affliction. Why? This dua will never come true. Because every single person, Quran says, Inna khalaqna insana fi kabad. We created insan in trials and tribulations. Then you're making this dua has no use for it. It will never come true. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created an insan to be facing trials and tribulations. Instead, you should make the dua that, Oh Allah, I seek protection to seek it from the misguiding troubles, mudallatil fitan, those things which lead me into the misguidance through these fitan, through these trials. When trials come upon us, what happens? We go into these different misguidances, we go into these different tangents, and then we get lost. He says, ask for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to keep you away from those and protect you from that, and not from the trial itself. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And if you wanted to know things that you should be seeking refuge from, then go ahead and refer to Sahifa Sajjadiyya, dua number 8 in this Sahifa Sajjadiyya. So I gave you 2 references tonight. Hopefully you'll be able to read. One, Nahj-ul-Balagha, short saying number 93. Second, Sahifa Sajjadiyya, dua number 8, in which our fourth Imam counts the things. In fact, the dua is known as Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min this. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika from this. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-hasad. Oh Allah, I seek refuge from greed, from jealousy, from lack of patience, from intense anger, from lack of contentment, from the morals that I don't have, from the pleasures and of the desires, and so on and so forth. So these are the things that Imam ﷺ lists that you should be seeking refuge from. So therefore understand that sometimes you and I do not know how to properly ask. When we don't know how to properly ask, thus the dua is not also granted from that same matter. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So one can show gratitude through their tongue, through their speech, and sometimes through their actions and through their character. So when you show it through your tongue, you can say, Alhamdulillah. Fourth Imam said, Man qala alhamdulillah faqad adda shukrallah. Whoever said alhamdulillah, indeed thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's one way of thanking. So it should become the tasbih of your tongue, that you should sing Alhamdulillah, 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 and also mean it. It's not just the utterance from the tongue, rather you should mean it when you are saying it. But what do you think is better, if it comes through your action or if it comes through your tongue? Rather when it comes through your action, and that's why we'll give some practical examples of showing great gratitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first and the foremost is salat. Is the best way to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we have what? Salat-e-Shukrana, right? We perform namaz-e-Shukrana. 2 rakat namaz to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something that, a favor that you were granted. That's why our Imam, fourth Imam, was known as Sayyidus Sajidin. He was known as Zainul Abidin, Sayyidul Sajidin. Why? Because of the performance of the sajda that he did. Every time something will happen, Imam will bow and put his head down in prostration in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he became Sayyidul Sajidin. Second is Sawm. You should fast every time you are blessed with a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a way of showing your gratitude towards Him. Serving others. If an illiterate asks you to do something, if an illiterate asks a literate person to write something for him because he's unable to write it, then he shouldn't refuse. Rather, he should oblige as a gratitude to his ability that he's able to write. This is again in Surah Baqarah, verse number 282. وَلَا يَأْبَ كَاتِبٌ أَن يَكْتُبَ كَمَا عَلَّمَهُ اللَّهُ. Let not the writer refuse to write as Allah has taught him. So if someone is coming to you, asking you to do something on his behalf, that which he is unable to do, you should not decline. Rather, you should use that as a measure of thankfulness and gratitude towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 4, by being content, by showing qana'at in front of the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Kun kana'an takun ashkuran nas. Prophet said, be content and you will be the most gracious of mankind. That is how you could be gracious. How? By showing contentment, by showing qana'at in front of whatever God has bestowed. Taking care of the orphans. Allah said to the Prophet that we gave you paradise because you were an orphan. Don't shun the orphans away. فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ. Do not shun these yatama away. And that's why our Prophet said that if you want shortcuts, all of us are looking for shortcuts. And he said, if you want shortcut to paradise, there is a shortcut to paradise. Take care of the orphans. When you take care of an orphan, every time you place your hand on the head of an orphan, the amount of hair that you pass your hand through, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you the reward of the same amount. And therefore, Prophet said, Ana, salamun alaykum wa rahmatullah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He said, Ana wa kafilul yatim kahatayn fil jannah. Me and the one who takes care of yatim is like this in the paradise. Like this. And he pointed with his fingers. He said, me and the one who takes care of the yatim. So if you want a shortcut towards the paradise, take care of yatim. Do good. How many? We say, yeah, we've taken care of yatim. We've provided for their food. We've provided for their shelter. No, what you should do is sit down with the yatim. How many of us have sat down with the yatim to show that compassion and mercy that which he is missing and lacking because of lack of parents? That is something which most of us are lacking. Yes, we've given monetary help and we've given financial help. But how many of us have shown that sort of care for the orphans? So Prophet said, Ana wa kafilul yatim kahatayn fil jannah. The one who takes care of yatim is like this in paradise. Imagine when Prophet said, if someone takes care of any yatim, he will be like this to me in paradise. But if the yatim himself is a prophet himself, just imagine the one who has taken care of that prophet. Then what is the status of that person who has taken care of the prophet himself? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And I'm referring towards, obviously, I don't have to spell it out, in regards to Hazrat Abu Talib, who took care of this yatim in the form of our Prophet. Just imagine the status of Hazrat Abu Talib. Helping the needy and the deprived. Allah said to the Prophet in gratitude to that you were in need and we made you self-sufficient. He says, وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. Whenever a sa'il comes to you, do not turn him down. So that will be another means of showing graciousness and gratitude. And thanking others. As we mentioned the other day, that when someone is unable to thank others, he will not have the ability to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Prophet was asked, "O Prophet, those who give zakat and those who give monetary help, or those who pay their obligations, what should you do?" You should go ahead and worship, or you should go ahead and salute them. You should go ahead and send salutation unto them. He says in Surah Tawbah, verse number 103, وَصَلِّ عَلَيْهِمْ إِنَّ صَلَاتَكَ سَكَنٌ عَلَيْهِمْ. Go ahead and praise them. Salutations for them, O Prophet, because when you pray for them, indeed it will be a matter of tranquility for these individuals. So being grateful during calamities is also a big skill. Yes, we are thankful when there's nothing going on. But as soon as the calamity strikes, right away, very few are those who are thankful towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I remember when our third Imam, Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, he gave this famous line in the plains of Karbala. He said, and in regards to those who show religiosity, he said, people in the nas abidud dunya, people are the servants of the world. Right? They're the ghulam, they're the servants of the world. وَدِينٌ لَائِقٌ عَلَىٰ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. And this religion is sort of, hanging on their tongues. It's just there, merely there. إِذَا مُحِّسُوا بِالْبَلَىٰ قَلَّ الدَّيَّانُ. As soon as some sort of bala comes upon them, you'll find very few to be religious. Right away, as soon as we're struck with some sort of calamity, this is where you have to see who remains steadfast and who still is thankful towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why we read in Surah Baqarah 2:16, Asa an takrahu shay'an wa huwa khayrun lakum wa asa an tuhibbu shay'an wa huwa sharrun lakum. You and I do not know what is good for us and what is bad for us as much as our Creator knows for us. He says, yet it may be that you dislike something which is good for you, and it may be that you love something which is bad for you. How many times do we make these choices? You and I all can testify for this as far as our children are concerned. When they are making these choices, thinking that it's good for them, yet we're stopping them from doing so, right? Similarly, you and I make similar choices, sometimes thinking it is good for us, yet they might not be good for us. If only we knew that what this calamity has in it for us, what this difficulty has in it for us, then we'll be able to understand, and we will be with our heads in taslim, in as far as the submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we knew others are struggling more than us, we will be content with what God has given to us. Because we don't know what the others are struggling with, yet that's why we keep on asking for more. If we knew difficulties increase our attention towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we'll say, oh Allah, give us more difficulties. Whenever a difficulty comes, you go towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more. So that more the difficulties, the more you'll be inclined towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we know difficulties break our pride and make us soft-hearted, we would be asking for more difficulties from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we knew difficulties remind us of those who are suffering from illnesses and whatnot, we will say, oh Allah, give us more difficulties. If we know difficulties remind us of our previous blessings, which we have neglected and forgotten already, that God has given to us, those blessings are now reminded when we think about these calamities. If we knew difficulties are expiation, they are kafara for the previous sins that we have performed, we say, oh Allah, give us more, because we'd rather have you test us over here than you test us in the hereafter. If we knew the difficulties are means of eternal blessing in the hereafter, we'll say, oh Allah, give us more difficulties, as many as possible. If we knew difficulties are a wake-up call for the Qayamat, would say, yes, oh Allah, we oblige and we are greeting these difficulties. If we knew difficulties make us understand, and our deterrence and the level of patience or means of recognizing real friends, then we'll say, oh Allah, give us more difficulties so that we're able to get through all of these things. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I've run out of my time. I want to give a few more minutes, few extra minutes to my brother over here. But just towards the end, a few sentences, and inshallah we'll conclude. Right away, when we think about the ni'mat that God has given to us, and when we look at the lives of ma'asumeen, here we understand how even in the most difficult of the situations, how they were thankful towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'll give you 3 examples very quickly. One, Maulana Muttaqiyan, when he struck with the sword of Ibn Muljim Mal'oon, what does he say? Fustu wa Rabbil Kaaba. He said, indeed, by the Lord of the Kaaba, I am what? I am successful. Imam is has his head up high, and he says, I'm successful. On the night of Ashur, when Imam Hussein is sitting down with his companions, he says, and he reads the khutbah, Allahumma inni ahmaduka an akramtana bin nubuwwa wa allamtana al-Qur'an wa faqahtana fi ad-din wa ja'alta lana absaran wa af'idatan wa asma'an faja'alna min ash-shakirin. Oh Allah, you have bestowed us with this, you have bestowed us with this, you have given us ears, you have given us vision, you have given us hearts. Oh Allah, we know that we'll be killed tomorrow. فَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الشَّاكِرِينَ. Make us amongst those who are thankful servants to you. Why? Because tomorrow we're about to attain shahadat, which is a ni'mat from you. And lastly, we look at it in Sharikatul Hussein. When she's facing all of the calamities in the world, what does she say? مَا رَأَيْتُ إِلَّا جَمِيلًا. I do not see anything except the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is how you come out of the calamities that you face, the problems that come about you. This is how you keep your head high. And you say, oh Allah, I embrace all of these difficulties. Why? Because it brings me closer and closer to you. We akhiru dawana, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq to be able to ponder over these words of Quran and ahadith.